Small gauge trains are a great way of bulk transporting resources, materials, and supplies. They are mainly used inside facilities and logi hubs. To get started with small gauge rails, you need access to the basic facility structures to make construction materials and assembly materials. The small gauge rails themselves are built using construction materials. The small gauge locomotive and the small gauge train cars are all produced inside the small assembly station using construction materials and the assembly materials type 1 and 2. Construction materials can be made in a materials factory with salvage. Assembly materials type 1 and 2 are made inside a materials factory with a forge upgrade. Type 1 with salvage and coal coke, type 2 with salvage and petrol. To build small gauge rail tracks, transfer at least 25 construction materials into your inventory. Equip your hammer and press B to open the build menu. In the build menu, select the foundation category. In it, you will see 3 different types of small gauge rail. 1 variant that can be placed on top of facility foundations and 2 variants that can be placed on normal or other surfaces. Selecting the normal railway track by left-clicking on it will put the starting point of the track under your mouse cursor as a blueprint. You can hold down the right mouse button and move the mouse to rotate the starting point. Left-click to confirm the placement of the starting point. Then, move the mouse away from the starting point to lengthen the rail. You can pull in a straight line to create a straight section of rail, or move to either side to gently curve the rails. If you are happy with the trajectory and the blueprint is yellow, left-click to confirm and then walk up to the blueprint and hammer in the necessary construction materials. The second type of railway track is the bi-arc. Open the build menu again and this time select the bi-arc railway track. Once again, holding the right mouse button will change the orientation of the starting point, left-clicking will confirm the starting point, and dragging the end point out will lengthen the track. Moving away from the straight line will now show you that this creates 2 curves. One from the starting point and one from the end point. Holding down the right mouse button and moving the mouse now will allow you to change the orientation of the end point and make even sharper turns. When the blueprint turns red, it cannot be placed as is, and at your mouse cursor you will see the error message telling you what is wrong. When the blueprint turns yellow, you can left-click to confirm its shape and then walk up to it and hammer in the necessary CMATs. To extend the rails, simply select a new track and bring the starting point close to the end of an existing track. This will make it snap to it. You can temporarily disable snapping by holding down the Shift key. To branch off, or split, a railway track, start a new railway track and bring it close to the middle of an existing track. This will make it snap to the middle. Now, left-click to confirm the point where the branch will start and drag out the tracks. When using a bi-arc railway track, you can once again hold down the right mouse button to change the orientation of the end point. Left-click to confirm the branch's shape and hammer in the necessary CMATs. A switch with semaphore will be created at the point where the new rail branches off. Small gauge railway tracks can also cross roads. A single track can, however, not start or end on one. You can use the scroll wheel to lift the rails up from, or press into, the surface. This can come in handy to traverse slope terrain. If for whatever reason you want to demolish the rails, you can do this by pressing F to go into upgrade mode and aiming at the center of the rails. Then press E to open the upgrade menu, and in the actions panel hovering over the demolish button will tell you the requirements to be able to demolish it. There must be no enemies nearby, and the rails must have been placed less than 7 days ago. To confirm, simply click the Demolish button. This will remove the rails and place a dropped items crate at your position, which contains the 25 construction materials used to make the rails. To place small gauge rails on facility foundations, you need to select the foundation version of the tracks. These can only start and end on facility foundations and otherwise function as the normal bi-arc track, where you can orient both the starting and end point of the track. Small gauge railway tracks cannot be placed on beaches, rocks, and bridges. They can, however, cross region borders. Simply keep building tracks towards the region border. When you are at the border, you can extend a track blueprint partially into the next map and build it. Then travel over to the other side and attach a new track to the track that crosses the border. Traveling over with a train works the same as normal. Drive up to the border and when in the bottom left the message appears, press E to travel to adjacent region, press E to travel over. If enough free rail space is available on the other side, you will travel over. As a side note, rails inside the rapid decay zone will not be affected by rapid decay, but can also not be branched off inside the rapid decay zone. They cannot be protected by maintenance supplies and require repairs or rebuilding to reset the decay caused by the standard decay. To build a small gauge locomotive and its various cars, you will need to locate a small assembly station and make sure a crane, mobile or static, is present near it. Press M to open the map, and while holding Shift, left-click twice on the small assembly station icon in the legend on the left. This will isolate all small assembly stations. Get close to the station and press E to open its menu. In the production panel, hover over the small gauge locomotive, or BMS Mineseeker, to see its price. 125 construction materials, 10 assembly materials type 1 and 20 assembly materials type 2, and see additional information like its fuel type, coal. Make sure enough materials are present in the stockpile of the assembly station and that power is provided. Then simply left-click on the locomotive's icon to start production. A pop-up will appear asking you if you want to reserve it for your squad upon completion. This will prevent others from taking your produced locomotive from the assembly station for up to 30 meters after completion. When the production has finished, walk onto the pad and press Shift plus E and select a Mineseeker to open its inventory. On the left, you see the single inventory slot of the locomotive, and on the right you will find its fuel gauge, the name of the last driver, and the remaining time on the squad reservation. In the Actions panel, click the Package button to package the locomotive so you can hoist it off the assembly station. Hop into a crane and hold down the right mouse button to aim at the packaged Mineseeker. When the connection icon appears, press the left mouse button to hoist it up. Aim at the back of a flatbed truck and left-click to place the locomotive on the back to transport it. Or aim at a small gauge rail track until you see the connection icon and use the A or D key to rotate the locomotive in the right direction. Left-click to place it onto the rails. When it touches the rail, it will automatically unpack and be ready to be driven. If you press Q while close to it, you will hop into the driver's seat and you can use the W key to move forward or the S key to reverse. If you open the inventory of the locomotive by pressing E, you see that it has very little fuel, just like any newly built or assembled vehicle. To refuel it, put a stack of coal into your inventory and walk up to the locomotive. Open its inventory and shift left-click to transfer the coal into the single inventory slot of the locomotive. This will visually fill the fuel bar on the right. When you are in the driver's seat of the locomotive, a white line will extend from it, showing you the current route the locomotive will follow. A small perpendicular line on the driveline indicates a switch, and the driveline after that line shows the path you will take past that switch. To choose the other branch, press Q to exit the locomotive and walk up to the semaphore next to the switch and press E to switch it to the other track. While you are out of the locomotive, the driveline will still be visible for another 10 seconds, allowing you to see the resulting driveline of changing tracks. A large perpendicular line on the tracks either indicates the end of a line or a switch that is in a position that does not allow you to pass. Flipping the switch should allow you onto the track and will turn the large perpendicular line into a small one and extend the driveline past the switch. There are 4 different types of small gauge rail cars available for production at the small assembly station. The small flatbed cart, or BMS line runner, which specializes in the transport of large items like large shells, facility materials, and for instance tripods. The small container car, or BMS rail truck, which is only suited for the transport of raw resources like salvage and components, intermediate resources like heavy explosive materials and gravel, and technology materials like aluminium and copper. The small liquid container car, or BMS tinderbox, specifically made to transport liquids like oil or petrol. And the small box car, which is the small gauge rail variant of the normal truck and can hold any item in its inventory slots. The small flatbed car and small container car will cost you 35 construction materials, 15 assembly materials type 1, and 5 assembly materials type 2. The small liquid container car and the small box car will cost you 35 construction materials, 5 assembly materials type 1, and 15 assembly materials type 2. To produce them, make sure power is provided and then left-click their icon. You can squad lock them too to prevent others from taking the car off the platform for up to 30 minutes after production has finished. When they are finished, walk up to them and press E to open their menu. Left-click the package button in the Actions panel to be able to hoist them up with a crane. Placing them on rails will automatically unpack them. To attach or couple them onto other cars or the locomotive, stand between them, press Shift E and select Couple Rail Cars in the drop-down menu. To use the cars, drive your locomotive alongside a building and press E or Shift E and select their inventory. In the bottom left, you will find the inventory of your locomotive and tabs to reach the inventory of the coupled cars. Simply left-click on the little icons of the cars to open their specific inventories. Now you can transfer large items into the flatbed car, which will stack up to 100 and can only contain one type at a time, transfer liquid cans into the liquid container car, transfer raw and intermediate resources in the container car, and transfer all types of items into the box car. You can submit the items into the stockpiles of buildings by right-clicking the items or stacks and choosing Submit to Stockpile in the drop-down. Alternatively, you can enter the loader seat of one of the cars by pressing Q and left-click to submit items into stockpiles. For instance, large items from a flatbed car into a material transfer station, liquids from a liquid car into a liquid transfer station, salvage from a container car into a resource transfer station, or crated items from a box car into a crate transfer station. Bear in mind that you cannot choose which structure it will go into and that it will automatically submit it into the closest structure. The small flatbed car can also be used to quickly build or upgrade structures that require large items. To build a facility crane, for instance, you can prepare a small flatbed with 10 processed construction materials, equip your hammer, press B to open the build menu and select a BMS 4-man stacker and place its blueprint. Then hop onto the loader seat of the flatbed car and left-click to immediately submit all necessary P-cons into the blueprint. Or, when upgrading a bunker piece to Tier 3, you can load a flatbed car with concrete, hoist the car close to the blueprint, hop onto the loader seat and left-click to submit all necessary concrete into the blueprint at once. The liquid container car can be used to refuel vehicles or structures the same way fuel trucks and containers do. When they are close to the vehicle or building, open their menu and click the refuel button to start refueling it. Decoupling cars or locomotives is done with a wrench. Stand between the cars you want to decouple, press C to crouch, and press the left mouse button to decouple the cars. As per usual, a humongous thank you to Crowd9er, without whose help the script would not have scored a solid, seems fine to me, on a scale of Crowd to Niner.